Hello and welcome to week 9. So we are officially in the second half of the semester, and so I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy the remainder of the course. The majority of what's left in this course will be the domains, which is going to be coming in a few weeks. But before we get there, we have a few other important topics to discuss. But first, I wanted to thank you for the emails letting me know what has had the most impact on you so far. I always love doing that around the midway point because it's so encouraging to see that in 8 short weeks, there's already so much information that you've taken away from this course. So thank you for taking the time to send me the email. And for those of you that did, then you found that it was an easy 100 for your participation. So this week we're going to be looking at guiding children's behavior and scheduling. So if you read my announcement, you'll see that it doesn't really seem like these two items go together, but in actuality, they go together really well. And the reason is that if teachers do not create a developmentally appropriate schedule, they actually can set children up for misbehaving in the classroom. For instance, if a teacher has circle time for an extended period of time, then it's highly likely that children are going to get antsy and they're not going to be able to sit still. So we're going to kind of merge these two topics together as we get ready for you to create your own developmentally appropriate schedule. So when you go into this week's folder, you're going to find several things. One, here's a quick little video that I found that I thought was such a fantastic way for teachers to start off the day. So enjoy watching this teacher encourage students as they come in the morning. But as you go through, this week you're going to be looking at Chapter 7, which again is about guiding the behavior of children. And if you notice, we always are using the terms guiding behavior. And the reason is that we're not looking to punish, but what we are trying to do is we're helping children learn how to behave, how to meet the expectations that we have for them, but also as teachers to set developmentally appropriate expectations and guidelines and be clear and consistent about it. For instance, you don't want to have a circle time that's going to last for 30 minutes with 2-year-olds because there is absolutely no way that they can sit for 30 minutes at that age. So that's why you're going to kind of find that these topics are going to go hand in hand. So Chapter 7 is going to give you some great information about guiding children's behavior, what we can do as teachers, how we can make sure that we're setting up appropriate expectations and guidelines for children. But I also want you to go back into Chapter 9 and review these pages from 296 to 305. That was the physical environment chapter that I told you was going to kind of branch into several different areas, and one of them was scheduling. So you are going to want to go back and just reread those 10 pages that talks about schedules, what needs to be in a developmentally appropriate schedule. It will give you some examples of schedules, but please know that you cannot use the one that's in the textbook for the one that you're going to create. I do have a discussion board for you this week. It's called Schedules. You only need to post. You do not need to respond to any of your classmates because you're working on several assignments. But I think it's really important for us to be able to analyze whether the schedules that we've seen in classrooms are appropriate or not. So again, all you have to do is just post your own response. But the main thing that you're going to do this week is you're going to start working on your schedule. So here's the discussion board for the schedule, but this is what we're going to be focusing on, the schedule assignment. These two are resources that I have put in here that go with guiding behavior of children. This is a great video. You do not have to watch it right now, but I would go back whenever you do have time and watch it. And this is a great handout about 21 strategies for guiding children. So these again go with Chapter 7. And so I just wanted you to have some great resources. But when you go into the schedule assignment, you're going to see several different things. So the first thing you're going to notice is this is a Panopto link. So when I introduced this assignment to my face-to-face class, I recorded the session. And so if you are interested in listening to it, because I don't do video, but I will record the audio, then you're welcome to do that. Just make sure that when you click on this and it asks you to log in, up at the top, there's going to be a drop-down box that asks you how you want to log in. Make sure that you pull the drop-down to Blackboard, and so that way you can log in just like you would be logging into Blackboard. This is a PowerPoint that you are going to want to review that talks about schedules, what should be in a schedule. So this is going to give you some great additional information. And here is where I actually did a narrated PowerPoint on how to do the schedule and make sure that you have all of the appropriate pieces. But when you get down here, you're going to find this is the schedule directions. Here's a sample. It's been started. It did not get very far, but it's just so you can kind of see how to set it up. Here's a blank schedule form that you can work from, but as always, there is a template because there's a couple of challenge questions that you have to answer. So if we go to the directions, there's a few things that I want to point out. So as you are creating this schedule, there's a few things that you need to know. And really some of it's coming from right here. So you're going to be creating a preschool schedule. So that's children 3, 4, 5 years old. And your schedule needs to start at 6:30 in the morning and go until 6 o'clock in the evening. So even though you're going to need to do a little bit of math, for those of you who are watching this video, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that that means that your center is open for 11 and a half hours. And you are going to need to know that number because it's going to help you figure out how you need to set up your schedule. So if you go through here, you're going to see this is that PowerPoint, a closer look at schedules that you're going to want to review before you start doing your schedule. So one thing that I want to make sure to point out to you, and you probably saw it as you were working on your Activity Center project, is something called substantial portion of the day. And so all that means is that if a center is high quality, then they are giving children free access to all centers for at least 1/3 of the operating hours. And that's where that math that I told you, as well as the 11 and a half hours, are going to come into play. You do not need to do the math on figuring out what is 1/3 of 11 and a half hours because there is already a schedule calculator that's going to tell you that. So a few things as we go through here. So your schedule needs to start at 6:30 in the morning with probably a staggered arrival. And so you can choose how you want to, how long you want your staggered arrival to be. But again, it does need to start at 6:30 in the morning. A few other things to note is that as you are figuring out your substantial portion of the day, you're going to look at this calculator that I will get to eventually, but here we go. Here is the substantial portion of the day calculator. So as I said, you've already determined that it's 11 and a half hours. And so the calculator tells us that for at least 3 hours and 50 minutes, children need to have free access to all centers, which means that there need to be blocks of time throughout the day, one around mid-morning, one in the afternoon, and then one kind of wherever you can find time for it. But almost all centers, there's only 2 centers that don't need substantial portion of the day, but all of the rest of them, children should have free access to the centers for at least 3 hours and 50 minutes in your schedule. The other calculator that's going to be handy to know is the minimal access And so that's another portion of your schedule. And so I wanted to show you this before I actually showed you what the schedule looks like. But I am going to tell you that this column right here, that's where you're going to be filling in for your minimal access. This is pretty much 8+ hours. So anything from 8 hours on. But for your minimal access, it's going to be 60 minutes. All that means is that for the lowest quality, children should have access for at least 1 hour. But what we really want is 3 hours and 50 minutes. So as I'm getting to the actual schedule form, a few things that I want to mention. One of them is that your nap time needs to be 2 hours. High quality centers have children in going outside for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. And you're going to need to make sure that you have breakfast, you have a morning snack, you have lunch, and an afternoon snack. So those are really just some key things to make sure that you include in here. Now, this is the schedule sample that I was showing you because I just think it's easier for you to see what you're going to be doing. So when you open up the blank schedule, you're going to be able to just type directly into it. And I'm going to tell you that you're going to have to add some rows. That's really easy to do in Microsoft Word because if you look and you kind of scroll to where you get to the end of a box, a plus sign is going to show up. And so that's just going to let you add as many rows as you want. So please do not think that you have to just only use the rows that I have provided. You're going to need to add more. So what you notice is that at the top are all of the centers. Down here, down the left-hand side is going to be your times. And if you notice, it actually says the starting to the ending time. It doesn't just say 6:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m., because you need to know how much time is elapsing because you may need to calculate it for the centers. So if you notice, this person decided that their staggered arrival was going to be for 2 hours. So from 6:30 to 8:30, children can be coming in at any time. And so they will be having breakfast. And then these are the only centers that this person wanted available to the children: cozy, fine motor, and books. So because that's a 2-hour time span, this person needs to put 2 hours under fine motor, under cozy, and under books. But because none of the other centers are going to be available to the children, then I don't need to put anything else in that block. So then this person is saying that from 8:30 to 8:45, they're going to have circle time. Well, children should not be having free access to centers during circle time, so nothing's going to go in any of these boxes. But then we're going to have where all centers are available. And so you're going to notice that for an hour and 15 minutes, this person is saying that art, fine motor, blocks, dramatic play, music, science, math, cozy, books, and sand and water are going to be available to the children. So that's an hour and 15 minutes that you're going to fill in everywhere, except for gross motor. Gross motor is outside. So pretty much the only time that you're going to have gross motor filled in is when they go outside in the morning and when they go outside in the afternoon. And so all you do is you just continue adding on from here. So making sure that you don't forget transitions. Don't forget that children are going to have to wash their hands before they eat, that they're going to have to wash their hands when they come in from outside, that you may want to have times around nap time before they go down for nap or after they get up from nap where you're going to have a restroom time. For most preschoolers, you don't need to put restroom any place else because it's an on-demand. They already know when they have to use the restroom, and you're not normally taking the whole class at once. But around nap time, if you did want to put in that the transition is going to the restroom, getting cots out, things like that, then you can put that in there. And then don't forget that your day should end at 6 p.m., which probably means that you have a staggered departure. because children are going to be leaving at different times. So when you put in your staggered departure, you may want to have some centers available then, but remember, only put something in the boxes if that center is freely accessible to the children. Not that they could go there, it's that they actually have the choice to go there. And that's why you want to make sure that several times throughout the day you have this where all centers are available. So if you have any questions, let me know.